They've been asking for you to talk on networking for years now because they have seen you work a room.
We get a lot of invitations as creators. Sometimes we wish we had more. You're already networking. You might not like the word, you might not like what you think networking is, but you're already doing it. They're going to want you in their inner circle.
I'm Becca Robbins, and I'm here to help travel and theme park creators grow their community and their business. Welcome to Influencing the Magic. I am super excited for today's guest. She is one of my favorite Disney. She's my DBFF, my Disney best friend forever. I've decided she doesn't know this yet, but I do. Anyways, I love Jessica and I've admired her ability to network for a very long time. And so I want to welcome Jessica from the Happiest Blog on Earth. Hi, Jessica.
Hey!
First, tell everyone where they can find you online.
I write at the Happiest Blog on Earth, and I've been writing all about Disneyland there since 2013. That's my main place where you can find everything about me. I'm also on LinkedIn, X, Instagram, all the places, usually by one form or another name, Jessica, the Happiest Blog on Earth. Something like that.
She's also a co-founder of the Disneyland with Kids group, along with me and two other wonderful ladies. And let's see, what else do you do? We host a podcast together, and she's like best buds with Josh tomorrow. Okay, not really, but we're going to talk about this. So, um, it was like 20. So before that, it was like 2018. I started really noticing how there were certain things about people I admired and I wanted to let them know. And I told Jessica, you are so good at networking, and that's a talent of yours that I really admire. And I don't know if she believed me or not, but as we went on, I started noticing even more. And one of the things I noticed happened in 2019. That's the year, right? The Galaxy's Edge opened. Okay, so we went to Galaxy's Edge. We go in the first day. Josh Tomorrow's there greeting all the guests. Then we see him later, and Leslie, one of the co-founders of Disney Kids with us, like, let's go meet him. And so we talked to him for a minute. Leslie says we run this group and it's great. And then we're going to go get in line to go to Oga's Cantina, because this is back when there was the long line. You had to wait in and hope you got in. And I'm like, wait, where's Jessica? And I turn back and she's just carrying on a conversation with Josh Tomorrow and handing him her business card. And so I was like, sweet, Jessica's going to get us in the penthouse next time we're here. No, but
Totally.
really,
But like, who even is this guy? Who is Josh Tomorrow? I
and that's,
didn't know.
she didn't
That
know. And
was
I
one of
didn't
the
know you
things.
didn't know until you talked at our conference, spoke at our conference about networking. And then you admitted that you didn't even know who he was at the time. So at the time, he was the president of Disneyland Park. And now he is over all of Disney parks and experiences. So he's a big
Right.
deal. And Jessica's just like chatting it up with him, handing him her business card. And it was amazing.
And maybe that's part of networking that is great is when you don't really know, because then that intimidation factor is gone. I mean, of course I saw the line of people waiting to talk to him and snap pictures with him, and I did know who he was like 2 minutes before, cuz Leslie said, "There's the president of Disneyland." And so I was like, "Sweet. I want to talk to him." And I got my business card right from my purse and had it ready to give to him that second.
When I asked you to speak on networking, I think you first were like, "Me? Really?" But people that come to my conference, like, you helped me start it, um, but they've been asking for you to talk on networking for years now because they have seen you work a room. And so this year I finally was like, "Jessica, you're doing it. You don't get a choice." And thankfully you agreed. But it was funny because it seems like you didn't even realize that you had this pattern established, and that helps you network. And that's kind of what we're going to touch on today. If you guys want to learn more things about networking and email marketing, all that kind of stuff, you're going to want to come to our annual events. We have next year's already planned for February 6th or 8th, and the tickets will go on sale to everyone soon. Right now, it's on a pre-sale for the alumni. but we'll get to that later. So, Jessica, let's get into your 3 steps because I love that you broke it into 3 easy steps.
Yeah, so obviously this presentation that I did only a week ago as we're recording was something that I've been thinking about for a long time because people have been asking to hear me speak about networking and you have mentioned it, and which I appreciate so much because so much of what we do in this industry um, is with other people, and when other people point out talents that we have, we're able to grow those. So I appreciate that so much. But as I was putting this together, I was writing down some of my kind of top networking moments that I remembered and that have brought me some really great results and different results. And I realized that there was a pattern for each thing. And that is what I made into my networking framework. Those 3 steps are prep work, talking points, and follow up.
Yeah, it's great. And I love that you talked about prep work. And we're going to talk about this. I think this is the one we might focus on a little bit more today because I don't think enough people do this. Like, one thing I've noticed is like you and I both, when we get invited to an event, whether it's an event for creators or something else, we're both kind of like, oh, who else is going to be there? Who else do we think is going to be there? And we're trying to find out who we might be able to network with at that event. Mine's more like I'm just curious who's going to be there, but now I know why you've been asking.
Yes, the prep work is such an important part of it because if you're thinking about who's going to be there, you're already thinking about what you might say to them, what you might talk about, how meeting them or talking with them can help you reach your goals in content creation. And I think visualizing and planning out those things also takes a lot of the stress and the anxiety out of networking because you're just mentally preparing, you're seeing that scene, you're imagining what it could be like, and getting ready for that event. Some of the prep work questions that I ask myself are, why am I going to an event? What are my goals? Who will be there and who might be there? So we touched on some of those, but I think one of the things you truthfully need to ask yourself is, why are you going? We get a lot of invitations as creators. Sometimes we wish we had more. I think we all wish we had more, but there are some that are going to be more beneficial to us than others.
Yes.
And some things you go to just because they're fun and you want to. And that is totally okay. Because if work isn't fun, I think most of us started content creation because it is fun for us, because we love this industry. So if you want to go to something just because it's fun, not because you think you're going to make any amazing connections, I think that's worth it as well. But also don't underestimate the power of networking with other creators because those are going to be your main supporters and connectors and cheerleaders. I guess that also goes to say, don't go into networking thinking about what you're going to get out of it. I know that's like almost completely opposite of like a business mindset, but I don't think that's the first goal.
Yeah, no, and this ended up being kind of like a theme of the conference this year is that personal connection, right? Making those
Yeah.
connections, whether it's your community that you're growing, you're following with and stuff, or whether it's email marketing or networking, it's all about connections and communication. And that's what makes our businesses grow and thrive. So I really loved having that. And I love thinking about that. I've listened to a few audiobooks about networking, and one of the things is don't go in it being like, "What can I get from them?" It should be, "What can I get to know about them, and what can I do for them?" Are the things that they, talked about a lot. So I love that.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, there is a business side and there is a human side, but ultimately the human side drives the business side. And you you need to build the relationships and care about the person, because all of us know how it feels to have someone befriend you or want to connect with you just because of what you can give them, and it doesn't feel right and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I like to compare it to the old high school person. Maybe you weren't even friends in high school, and suddenly they're messaging you on social media or somewhere, and they're like, "Hey, how's it been going? Oh, by the way, I now sell or I now do this. Are you interested in trying our makeup or our whatever product they're selling?"
Mhm.
And so you don't want to be that person in the business world or in the creator world. You don't want to be the one that's coming and being like, "Oh, by the way, I do this. You should really invite me to your events or you should really like work with me because, you want to get to know the person first. Don't be like that person that's just reaching out to do a pitch."
Yeah, and networking goes beyond in-person things as well. And like, if you're in the creator community, you're listening to this podcast, you're going to events, you're in groups, like mastermind type of groups online, you're already networking. You might not like the word, you might not like what you think networking is, but you're already doing it. And it can be what serves you and what you want it to be.
Definitely. Okay, so some prep work that I think about since our thing, because right after this, you and I were somewhere and we met someone or something, and you're like, "Becca, where's your business card?" So that's the other thing. Prep work also means making sure you're ready for when someone asks you for something, right? Like you
Right.
need to
It's
always have your business card.
It's so simple and it is so old school, right? We don't think you necessarily need one, but I can tell you, when I met Josh Damaro and I gave him my business card, he looked at it, he saw my name, he saw my picture. I put pictures of myself on my business card. And he actually right then went and introduced me to some other colleagues of his and was able to introduce me to them by name and my website and what I do. Um, that is a huge thing, right? When someone who's really at the top of their game, your game, right, introduces you to someone else by name just because they had that reference to look at. I always like to keep my business cards somewhere super handy. And if I think, again, into that prep work, that I'm going to be passing them out, I might even just grab one and put it into my back pocket to make it even simpler. Because when I'm nervous, I tend to get like I can't move as smoothly, and so I don't want to be like unzipping my backpack. But it does happen. One time I gave someone else's business card because I was giving out cards and collecting them, and I put them in the same spot. So don't do that, because I was like, oh, this isn't mine. Just a second. um but also, we're all human, so little things like that, it's fine. You don't have to be
Hey, and
perfect
you
to
know what?
network
They
either.
probably remembered you better because you were the person that
Exactly.
started to give them someone else's business card. I also think
Totally.
this is an argument for the old school cards because now we have the like tap
Mhm.
cards where it brings up all your information, but then you have to look at your phone and like most people don't do that when you're right there in conversation because it's kind of rude, honestly. And
Yeah, that's
so
true.
having the card right there, you can kind of just glance down at it and be like, "Oh yeah, Jessica, blah blah blah." And so I think the perfect mix is I think you've done this now is your business card with a QR code on it to get your
Yes.
information because having that right there with your name and your information that like you said it was instrumental in that networking moment because he was able to introduce you by name and he had it there he could reference pretty what's like subtly if he
Right.
needed to. Like, it wasn't, like, super obvious, like, "Oh, I don't know her name, let me look." He could just glance down and be like, "Oh, yeah, Jessica. Like, this is Jessica." So, I
Exactly. And if
love
you're
that.
having a really good networking connection with someone, you can absolutely get them more than one business card. Even some of my good friends that I network with now, when I get a new business card, I give them a couple. And because I know they know me, but I say, oh, I just got these updated. you can give these out to some of your colleagues if you think anyone would want to see this. Um,
Awesome.
I
That's a
think it's a
great tip.
great tool.
Definitely. Okay, let's move on to your second step.
Okay, so the second step is talking points. Um, Everyone is always worried about small talk, but it's small talk for a reason because we all know how to do it and it's okay. Sometimes you need those little things, but some of my favorite questions to ask are, what is your role? Because oftentimes you'll be in a media setting where you're working with someone, like talking about an upcoming project, or you can ask them what's been the best thing about this project. Another thing I really like asking, especially with creators, is what's your most popular article or what's your most viral post? Because a lot of times we have a hard time talking about ourselves, but when I ask them about a popular article or a viral post, it doesn't necessarily feel like they're talking about themselves. They're talking about something that they made. And so they can brag about that a little bit more. And I love asking those questions because then I know what they're good at, what they like, what makes them tick for any of those questions.
Yeah. I also think these questions are great for when you're networking with someone. Like, networking is not just in person, right? Like, you networked with someone that's become a great friend, and your first contacts were through LinkedIn or whatever. And so,
Mhm.
I have an episode that's coming out next week with Sarah from On the Road with Sarah, who is a freelancer. And we talked about, how she got into that. And one of her things was reaching out to people. And instead of just reaching out to someone and being like, oh, yeah, I saw you do freelancing, blah, 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 you could be like, hey, what is it that you love about freelancing? I'm very interested in this. And get them talking about that. Ask them about themselves. This is one thing you said. People are, it wasn't maybe like said outright about this, but people aren't necessarily comfortable bragging about something that they're proud of or that they've done. But when you ask them about themselves, it gives them that permission to talk about something that they're excited about.
Totally. And I'd also say network even when you don't think it's going to benefit you, right? I kind of mentioned that in the beginning. Like, don't go into it as like, what can I get out of this? But I had one example where I was at an event with an editor of a really big fashion magazine. And I don't write about fashion. I don't consider myself a fashionista of any sort. But because we have made a connection and because we've stayed in touch because of this random event, they actually did an article about Disney adults in one of their fashion magazines. And guess who they called to get a quote? So it's like you never know how these little interactions are going to help both of you because I was excited that my name was going to be mentioned in this big magazine, this big publication. And my friend was excited because he knew exactly who he could talk to for this particular piece.
One part of the small talk that I know a lot of us said we had issues with and you helped us with was ending the conversation. I always felt so awkward. Like, how do I end this so that I can move on or I can not make them feel trapped? And you had a really good tactic that you used, and I like to call this the "How I Met Your Mother" tactic. And do you know why? Have you watched that show? "Have you met
No.
my friend Ted?" The wingman, Barney, he would be like, "Have you met
Yes.
Ted?"
Yeah, so that is the tactic. It's introducing your connections to someone else. Um, a lot of times we work so close with other content creators and we know what they're really good at. It's sometimes hard to see what we're good at, but we know what so and so is good at. And it's easy to brag them up. If you have friends that you can brag up, bring them into that circle, introduce them to whoever you're talking to, and then you can slip out very easily and not have to have any lingering awkward ending of the conversation. And I think it's really valuable to be a connector in your community because if you can connect the right people to the right people, they're going to want you in their inner circle as well because they know that if you're not the answer, you'll know someone who is the answer.
I think a lot of people, when I've gone to media events or other things, especially at Disney, a lot of people don't want other people to talk to those contacts. Like, you can tell, and they're just trying to keep the conversation going with them for so long that nobody else gets to contact them, and that's going to not maybe not that time, but at some point that's going to show, like, to someone's going to catch on to what you're doing. And it's always beneficial when you can introduce more people. I had an invite to a media event, and it was one you could bring your family or three guests. My family couldn't come because my kids were in school. I brought 3 other bloggers, and I made the best connection with this media contact I didn't know, because instead of just letting these tickets go to waste, I was like, "I'll bring 3 more people that are gonna cover this information for you like it was their invite," and
Yep.
that has remained a close connection for me with that person, even as they've moved on to other things.
Yeah, and it expands your reach. I think it only serves to make you look good.
Okay, let's get to the final one, the follow-up.
Yeah, follow-up is so important, and speaking of business cards, when I get business cards, I collect those, and then part of my to-do list for the following week is to follow up with those people. So I always send an email. I really like connecting on LinkedIn, even if I'm also sending an email because positions change, emails change. LinkedIn is a really great way to get um, consistent connection with people. I'm
Yeah.
also big on lunches, or you could do coffees, but I invite people to meet up with me for maybe a walkthrough somewhere or a lunch, and also snail mail when appropriate, sending a thank you card in the mail. It's definitely going to catch someone's attention more so than an email when they get so many every day. But the follow up is really important.
Definitely. Okay, so I love this framework. I really think like you could like make a course out of this. Like, I know you don't think you're that great at networking, but you really are. And as everyone was saying, when they keep asking me, when is Jessica going to do a session about networking? They're like, I've seen her work a room, and the way she does it, and it just feels like it's like second nature to you. Like, it's just you just it's natural. Like, I can't even put it into words how well you do this. And it is a talent that I have admired from you, but I am also learning from you that, it's not just that, like, even if you have a talent, you have to work at it and you have to develop it. And so just because someone it feels like it's so easy for them doesn't mean that it really is. It's not necessarily that it's easy. It's just
Yep.
something you've worked on. So,
Yeah, totally. The more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. Watch people doing it in a room that you admire. You can always copy them. Like sometimes we get up our confidence by doing as other people do. And it really is a mindset thing. I don't wake up every day and be like, I can't wait to network. I cannot wait for who I'm going to meet today. Like, I have to pump myself up and I have to prepare going into things so that I could be the best version of myself for these particular events.
yes. And I think also if you're an introvert, um, I think it's also important for you to be okay with stepping away for a little bit. And I don't remember who said it, but I know someone said this. We talked about finding the other introvert in the room,
Yes.
and that there is someone
So
else,
smart.
even in their position. Was this you? It might have been you, or just like someone commented and talked about it, and we had a discussion.
Yeah,
But
so I had led into that, and then someone did comment about, like, finding the other introvert because there are people that are at these events because it is their job and they have to be there, but they're maybe not the first top spokesperson. They're on the sidelines. But someone mentioned in the audience that you can find those people and you can make it a comfort spot for the two of you, and maybe you might see them again, and they're you will be their go-to because you had them feel comfortable.
yes. Yeah. So if you're an introvert, look for other introverts if you want, and also take time for yourself. If it's really hard for you and you get to meet 2 people and that sucked all the energy out of you, don't force yourself to go and network with more people. Obviously, making sure
Exactly.
that you are taken care of is number one. Nobody wants you out there networking if it's going to cause you that much stress. But as you do it more, you'll get better at it. You still might need that, like, okay, I gotta go take a 5-10 minute break before I talk to someone else. But at least, you'll feel comfortable when you are ready to go network some more with some more people, and you will come up with a system that helps you, because you can't come up with the way to decompress from using all that energy unless you've started doing it and you figure out how you can decompress. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm wording that very
Yeah,
well.
no, that's super important. I love one of the things that I love is having an empty hotel room to myself. Part of the prep work and the decompression. I grew up as a theater kid, so I love being on stage, but I will tell you, everyone that I grew up with, if they had 2 words to describe me, they would say, "Jessica is so shy, but she's so nice." That's what always people told me, "You're so nice and you're so shy." But once I got on stage, I was a different person because I was playing that role. I would practice my lines in front of the mirror, and you can practice networking in front of that mirror in the hotel room as well. And then that hotel room is there for you afterwards when you just need to go, "Oh my goodness, what just happened?"
I like to end all of these podcasts, since a lot of the people that tune in are in the theme park space or travel space. I like to end it with a would you rather theme park edition. And because you focus solely on Disneyland, we will keep it all to Disneyland for you. So, would you rather start your day at Disneyland or California Adventure?
Disneyland. Better breakfast options, more rides that are open.
Genie Plus or park hopping?
Genie
If you have
Plus.
churros or Dole Whips?
Dole Whip.
Now we're going to make it harder. Dole Whip or Mickey Premium Ice Cream Bar?
Mickey Ice Cream Bar.
Classic rides or new thrillers?
Classic.
Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout or Tower of Terror when it was that? Which do you prefer?
Ooh, Guardians of the Galaxy. I actually like it better. But I really do like Tower of Terror in Paris because it's freaky hearing that little girl speak to you in French.
Last one, Disney with your family or Disney with your friends?
Um, Disney with my family
Okay. That's a hard
and
one.
friends.
Like, because they're two totally different
So
experiences.
different. No, yeah. I think I go with friends more, so I pick my family.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on. A reminder, you can find Jessica at the happiest blog on earth.com. And then online, she's Jessica, the happiest blog on earth on Instagram, and some iteration of that everywhere online. And definitely let's give them the challenge you said you gave that college group that you talked to.
Oh,
Challenge.
yes. So it was to add me on LinkedIn and include a note. Don't just connect. Say, "Hey, I heard you on the podcast. Loved listening. Would love to connect here." Something like that. Those type of little notes are my go-to because then it's just not like a cold connection.
Yes. So that is your challenge, is to add Jessica Sanders from the happiest blog on earth on LinkedIn. So I'm going to check and see if people do it. So let us
I'll let
know
you
if you did
know.
it. Yeah, let us know if they did it. All right. Have a great day and keep influencing the magic.